The Star Wars galaxy is teeming with planets across multiple star systems, with some being a little more, or perhaps a lot more, mysterious than others. This presents us with worlds that have extensive histories and very interesting origins and/or secrets hidden within. One of these worlds happens to be the original homeworld of the Sith, a deeply corrupted world housing many tombs belonging to the ancient Sith lords of the past. Korriban, later on known as Moraband, would be invaded early on in its known history by a bug-like species known as the Kalik, a race originating from the planet Alderaan far before the formation of the Republic. However, the Kalik would be outmatched and driven off-world by the ancient Sith species. Though a few thousand years later, in about 27,700 BBY, the Sith planet would once again be attacked, but this time by the infamous Forgotten Empire, which I covered in my last video regarding the planet Tatooine. The Rakata would too be driven from the planet by one of the first Sith lords, King Adis, and his forces, though Adis would soon perish after the battle due to the wounds resulting from his valiant fight. This would cause the Sith to migrate to other worlds such as Zeost and Malachor V, among others, with Korriban eventually falling, remaining a vast gravesite, though still emanating with the mighty powers of the Sith. In the fallout of the 100-Year Darkness, however, the Sith Empire would form out of exiled fallen Jedi, and these Jedi would discover the planet Korriban along with the very few remaining surviving Sith who stayed on the world. The fallen Jedi would rule over Korriban and join with the Sith, strengthening their empire and later being revealed to the Jedi at the genesis of the reign of Naga Sadow. The Sith Empire would construct many tombs and structures over their time ruling Korriban, including palaces honoring fallen Sith lords. In the aftermath of the Great Hyperspace War, the Sith would gradually fall and lose the planet once more, with it remaining dilapidated and abandoned for just over 1,000 years. This is until the year 3997 BBY, when the ghost of Friedan Nad would guide his apprentice Exar Kun to Korriban in search of Sith knowledge. In the midst of the Great Sith War the following year, which ended with the death of Exar Kun, followers of Exar would build an academy devoted to teaching Force-sensitive the ways of the dark side. This very Sith academy would come into the hands of Darth Revan and his apprentice Malak, though several years later, after losing his memory and being replaced as Lord of the Sith by Malak himself, Revan would return to this academy and defeat the headmaster along with his apprentice in Darth Malak. As a result, the Sith would break apart and fight in a civil war, causing Korriban to be abandoned once more. Many thieves and plunderers would attempt to rob the ancient graves of the Sith on certain occasions, though they would typically be met with the sight of Sith Hound guardians known as the Tukata. The Tukata were among a multitude of creatures created by the Sith in their alchemy on Korriban. This includes the likes of the Hiss-Hiss, poisonous dark side dragons with the ability to turn invisible through the Force, and the mighty Tyrannotek, which I covered in my second Bizarre Creatures of the Galaxy video. The world, as well as the Academy, would once again fall into the hands of the Sith after Emperor Vitiate orders a legion of Sith to attack the Jedi guarding the planet. Many of the Sith acolytes underwent intense training, and those who survived were taken under the tutelage of a Sith Lord or Darth and used by the Sith Empire against the Jedi and the Republic, the very same Republic that would take control over the Academy for a short while. During the new Sith Wars, the Brotherhood of Darkness would take back Korriban from the Republic and begin training powerful Sith to expand their forces. One of these Sith happened to be Darth Bane, who would later invent the Rule of Two. During the Clone Wars in canon, Yoda would visit this world during his mission of learning how to retain consciousness after death, and in Legends, during the New Republic era, Sidious would arrive on the planet to seek guidance from the ancient Sith. Moving on, we have Skara Nal, a mysterious planet located in the Kaldar Trinaria system, and one that is not marked on any star map. This world housed a strange but powerful and deadly walker created by the ancients who lived on the planet thousands of years before even the formation of the Jedi Order. This machine would remain untouched and deactivated until the arrival of Fija Noa in Clone Force 99 between 19 and 18 BBY. They would discover the heart of the mountain and subsequently power the walker, which nearly destroyed their ship and potentially most of the planet. Interestingly enough, these ancients presumably lived on Skara Nal around the time the Rakatan Empire fell, and even during the period of the first few Sith. Perhaps one of the most unique planets in the galaxy would technically not even be considered a planet, but an artificial sphere assembled around a star located in the unknown regions of space during the events of the Great Hyperspace War and 100-Year Darkness. The ancient creators of this world, known as Iokoth, were a highly advanced species in terms of knowledge and technology. Using this technology, they would destroy every celestial body in the system for core components and create a habitat suitable for living. Though a civil war would break out amongst the people, and using their super weapons against one another, they would destroy much of the life there, the rest of it wiped out by the old gods, leaving only artificial intelligence and a droid named Ares to recreate the world in his image. This AI would kill any visitors who happen to discover Iokoth by putting them through barbaric challenges. This is until the arrival of certain visitors who also happen to be AI creations of the Iokoth people. These droids would stop Ares and destroy his super weapon, causing the planet to be covered in toxic radiation. The aforementioned old gods were created by the ancient architects and were 6 in number, led by the Father Azaz, the ultimate devourer, and they actually attempted to gain control over the galaxy. However, they would end up being destroyed. A planet many of you may already be familiar with is Kamino, though you may not be aware of its history before the events of the prequel trilogy, particularly information covered in Legends material. We of course know Kamino was a water world inhabited by the Kaminoans and in close proximity to the Rishi maze. The Kaminoans were a tall and thin species that possessed a deep knowledge of technology, particularly in the field of cloning. In Kamino's early history, the Kaminoans lived on land for the most part until a shifting climate would occur in around 19,000 BBY and melt the glaciers which fed into the already existing ocean, creating one global body of water. Harsh storms would be far more common, but due to the Kaminoans' resourcefulness, they would survive the Great Flood and create cities upon stilts raised above the water level. This would also include Taboka City. Something interesting to note is the fact that the Kaminoans actually had ancient mythology of their own, including a story concerning the deity Protus, the god beast of the Kaminoan seas, and the titan Melkor, who would be but the first of many challengers for the aforementioned god of the sea. The two would battle for 7 days until Protus would be the victor, establishing his dominant reign. Protus would be destroyed, however, after a pot of Aiwa targeted his vulnerable neck, and from that point on, the Aiwa would roam the skies and sea of Kamino in peace. In 33 BBY, the Kaminoan species would be tasked with creating a secret clone army for the Republic, commissioned by the Jedi Sifo Dyas. After Darth Sidious and Dooku secretly intervene and take control of the project, they would have each clone implanted with an inhibitor chip that would act in favor of Palpatine's plans of destroying the Jedi by having said clones betray the Jedi at the right moment. However, despite the Kaminoans being in on the secret of the Sith, unbeknownst to them, they would be betrayed in the year 19 BBY by the Empire, the very same Empire that would order an orbital bombardment on the planet, particularly directed at Taboka City. A pivotal planet, or moon I should say, for the timeline of the Skywalker saga actually possesses an interesting history. This would be the jungle moon of Yavin, the 4th moon orbiting around Yavin Prime. Yavin 4 would be the place that Naga Sadow and his Massassi warriors would rendezvous at in their retreat from the Republic after their failure in the Great Hyperspace War, 5,000 years before the battle that occurred on that very same moon between the Empire and the Rebellion. Sadow would actually have a Massassi temple built on Yavin, and he would eventually encase himself in his Sith sarcophagus, remaining there in a coma-like state until the arrival of Friedan Nad, who would end up killing Sadow and becoming the new Sith Lord. This would only last until the arrival of Exar Kun, who had been guided there by Friedan Nad himself, though Exar would end up destroying Nad and becoming the Lord of the Sith. In control of Yavin 4, Exar had many temples constructed, and he even alchemically created a Sith war beast known as the Battle Hydra, which I also cover in my second Bizarre Creatures of the Galaxy video. Nevertheless, Exar Kun would eventually battle against the Jedi on Yavin alongside his Mandalorian and Krath allies, a battle his forces would end up losing. This would result in Exar fleeing into the Great Temple with his followers, the followers that he would drain the life force from in order to separate his spirit from his body, allowing him to merge with the nearby temples and palaces for thousands of years to come. Yavin 4 would be one of the locations the Jedi purged of Tyrannotex and also acted as the place of Revan's defeat, where Revan's physical body would fade, merging with the Force itself and restoring his mind. During the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker would defeat the new apprentice of Count Dooku and Asajj Ventress on this very moon, and during the Age of the Empire, the Rebellion would use the Great Temple as a base of operations, where they would destroy the Death Star during the Battle of Yavin. In Legends, after the Rebellion had defeated the Empire in 4 ABY, Luke Skywalker would use the Great Temple on Yavin as a temple for his eventual Jedi Order, with the moon coming into control of the Yuuzhan Vong after they invade from an entirely different galaxy. The Yuuzhan would of course be eventually defeated. Additionally, as a side note, in canon, Poe Dameron would actually be born on Yavin in 2 ABY. Moving on to yet another unique world, this planet, known as Zonama Sakat, is actually sentient, with Zonama being the planet itself, and Sakat being the living organism. It was created via the seed of the original homeworld of the Yuuzhan Vong, which ended up being destroyed. During the Age of the Republic, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi would venture to this world in the search of a ship due to the rumors of Zanamis Ka housing the fastest ships in the galaxy. Funnily enough, the ships here were actually alive as well. The Yuuzhan Vong would eventually seize control of the planet, and it would act as their new home. Finally, we have a planet located in the unknown regions of the galaxy. However, the planet itself isn't exactly why it's interesting. It's actually a unique and mysterious creature, presumably hailing from the planet called Mustafar. This very creature would be known as the Nal Nal. Many in the galaxy, including the Chiss, believed it to be from a different galaxy entirely due to it being the only one of its kind. We even learned that according to the creature itself, it's so primordial that it existed when the ones of Mortis left the galaxy, being a witness of the event. It consists of a thick blackish gray slimy fluid, appearing much like Venom from the Marvel Universe, and it can move relatively quickly, able to shapeshift into essentially any form. It also possessed the ability to split its body into worm-esque creatures, and could even transform into a bat-like creature in order to fly. The Nal Nal, however, preferred to take control over sentient bodies of those who came across it, forming a pool and exploding outward, allowing bits of itself to latch onto the victim and search for entry points into the body. Again, much like Venom, this creature would begin devouring the host from the inside out, starting with the brain until the victim would perish within 24 hours. Yet another comparison to Marvel's Venom, Nal Nal could spread itself into other beings using the body it now controlled after entirely consuming them. Using these mind-controlled bodies, it could also pilot vehicles, many of which were brought back to Mustafar, forming a ring around the planet composed of these vehicles stolen across many different ages of the galaxy. This is several thousands of years. The only known species aware of the planet's location would be the Chiss. However, along with the Chiss, a few other species were well aware of the Nal Nal's danger and feared it for good reason. The creature would eventually spread itself across its entire planet, as well as infecting many worlds within the unknown regions, hiding on thousands of planets and moons within dark sewer systems and etc., or having completely destroyed the planet it infested, rendering it lifeless. Anyhow, I thought it would be interesting to cover a few mysterious planets and/or planets with extensive and intriguing origins, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day. See ya.